Now, chips are part of the main drivers of Korea's exports, and that being said, in this next report, our business correspondent Lee Soo-jin takes a look at how chip makers here.
On the one hand is the United States. It's a long-time ally, a country that shares nuclear weapons with the Dutch. On the other hand is ASML.
Dutch government has announced new export restrictions on microchip technology sales, citing security concerns.
The world, and we'll be announcing various very large companies, the biggest actually, and they'll be coming back having to do with chips.
In a quiet corner of Europe, the Netherlands just made a move that has stunned Washington and left Brussels scrambling. It wasn't a protest, a speech, or even a tweet. It was a single calculated action that sent ripples through tech industries, energy markets, and global alliances alike. This wasn't just a trade hiccup or a political jab. It was something far more strategic and far more revealing. While some are calling it bold, others are calling it a wake-up call. And tucked inside this international twist is one detail so critical it might just change the future of innovation itself. So what exactly did the Netherlands do, and why did it catch everyone off guard? Let's unravel the move that's got the world talking. The Netherlands' alleged sudden move to slam the brakes on ASML's exports shook the global tech and economic scene. ASML, the Dutch crown jewel and the world's only supplier of advanced extreme ultraviolet EUV lithography machines, plays a critical role in semiconductor manufacturing. These machines are essential for producing cutting-edge chips used in everything from smartphones to military hardware. By cutting off access to this technology, the Netherlands didn't just disrupt a supply chain, they flipped the table on global expectations around tech cooperation and trade. According to reports, this decision was triggered by a partial revocation of export licenses by the Dutch government, an action reportedly influenced by pressure from the Biden administration. The original shipment, intended for customers in China, was blocked just before it left port, signaling how tightly export control is now entangled with global politics. The move took even the United States by surprise. While Washington had long been used to a constant flow of cutting-edge technology from allies, it now had to confront a glaring hole in its semiconductor strategy. U.S. innovation had depended heavily on ASML equipment, and its sudden absence poses significant threats to national security and economic stability. The Netherlands, traditionally viewed as a trusty and cooperative ally, has made it abundantly clear that even trusted allies might take bold, uncooperative actions when national interest is at stake. The shock reverberated far beyond U.S. borders. It rattled the European Union. The EU, a bastion of collaboration with economic policies and internal solidarity, has been put into disarray by this unilateral act of the Netherlands. Such disruptions called into question the internal assumption that trade and technology flows will remain uninterrupted among EU member states. The Dutch decision starkly reminded everyone that technological assets have now become strategic weapons, and in a fast-changing geopolitical landscape, these may be weaponized by even those countries with a history of free trade. Beyond short-term political ramifications, the halt in exports triggered long tails of economic consequences. Key industries like electric vehicles, consumer electronics, and energy infrastructure suddenly found themselves at the mercy of supply chain uncertainty. ASML machines do not merely build chips, but also inject innovation into other sectors. Their absence created a vacuum that sparked the whole world into a fast-paced reconfiguration of the semiconductor supply chain and production strategies. The Netherlands had spoken, and the world had better listen. For decades, the country was known for its open trade policies and strong ties with Western allies. But by unilaterally halting exports of its most advanced semiconductor manufacturing machines, the Dutch government made a bold statement. Technological superiority isn't just an asset, it's leverage. In a world where microchips are the currency of global innovation, the Netherlands flipped the script and turned its crown jewel, ASML, into a strategic tool of national influence. The export halt, which ASML said was due to a change in licensing, was reportedly linked to U.S. efforts to tighten control over tech transfers to China. This context reveals a deeper game. The Netherlands wasn't just flexing on its own, it was navigating intense geopolitical pressure while asserting its own influence. This was a definite, calculated flex. The whole move was within a long-term vision framework. ASML reached the top with a strong reputation based on years of innovation, R&D, and public-private investment. The Dutch government realized that ownership of this truly critical piece of global semiconductor infrastructure afforded it an outsized voice on the world stage. By tightening control over ASML's exports, the Netherlands took control of its own destiny, sending the signal to both allies and rivals that it would no longer tolerate being a passive participant in global tech politics. What rattled the whole framework was that it was exceptionally unexpected. Even the EU found itself grasping at straws. Brussels, where harmony among states is usually an expectation, found itself unable to suppress the Netherlands from breaking ranks and asserting its right to sovereignty. The act revealed cracks in the initial assumption that economic interest will always trump national interest. Such was the conspicuous case of the Netherlands, exhibiting that in a technologically charged geopolitical climate, countries prefer control, resilience, and leverage in a way that could disrupt long-standing alliances. The Netherlands was making the point that it is not just about economic development, but rather national leverage in controlling advanced technology for semiconductor manufacturing. The ability to deny access to next-gen chip manufacturing equipment put the Dutch in a position to exert some influence that went beyond the boardroom and into the circles of international back-channel politics. It set a precedent for how smaller nations with critical technologies can stand head-to-head with superpowers. The Netherlands just gave a lesson on how to play hardball in a world where innovation has become the new battlefield. The Netherlands' decision to halt ASML exports didn't just stun the U.S., it rocked the European Union to its core. Brussels, long accustomed to consensus-driven policy and internal economic alignment, was blindsided by one of its own members acting unilaterally. The Dutch move went against the grain of the EU's collaborative approach to major trade and tech decisions, revealing deep vulnerabilities in the bloc's assumptions about internal solidarity and mutual interest. Simply put, no one in the EU saw it coming, and the aftershocks hit hard. Adding to the surprise was the fact that this decision wasn't purely domestic. It was partially driven by U.S. export control rules, revealing how external influence can fracture even the most integrated unions. The Netherlands found itself torn between EU economic norms and U.S. geopolitical strategy, and chose the latter. Even for a union built on shared goals, this was a wake-up call. The Netherlands, known for playing nice within the EU framework, suddenly asserted its national interests with zero warning. By leveraging ASML, a vital piece of the global semiconductor supply chain, as a geopolitical bargaining chip, the Dutch showed that member states aren't afraid to break ranks when the stakes are high enough. The move revealed that even within tight-knit alliances, strategic assets can be pulled off the table when sovereignty takes center stage. This Dutch decision made EU leaders scramble not only to comprehend its motivations, but also to reassess their own strategies towards technology. A long-term plan for many European businesses and governments had depended on relative predictability involving intra-union cooperation. Now, with one big player going rogue, these plans found themselves in jeopardy. The shock also led the EU to see a troubling reality. Unity in tech geopolitics is not a given. It has to be consciously endeavored, especially when clashes arise between individual actors, national interests, and that of the collective. This fracture in the EU demonstrated the necessity of greater flexibility and resilience. The harsh truth was that critical technologies were gradually becoming tools of national strategy. The Netherlands made it clear that it would prioritize control over ASML above established norms of alliance behavior. This sent one extremely loud signal, not only to Brussels, but around the world. Even in hegemonic arrangements, the rules can shift overnight when a member state considers its strategic edge too valuable to share. The EU was left high and dry, and now it's racing to catch up. The Netherlands' decision also sent an immediate chill through the electric vehicle industry, a sector that's become synonymous with innovation and the clean energy future. EVs depend heavily on high-performance semiconductors to power critical systems, from battery management and propulsion to autonomous driving and safety tech. ASML's advanced lithography machines are essential in producing these next-gen chips, and without them, the entire EV supply chain faces serious slowdowns and bottlenecks. China, one of the largest EV producers and a key customer for ASML's machines, was among those affected by the license revocation. While ASML downplayed the immediate financial impact, the EV world took it seriously. Losing access to crucial equipment, even for a small number of customers, meant that Chinese automakers would feel the squeeze, potentially delaying EV innovations globally. The timing couldn't have been worse. EV manufacturers were already under intense pressure to scale up production, meet rising demand, and stay ahead in a competitive global market. The sudden freeze in access to ASML's cutting-edge technology added a layer of unpredictability to an industry that thrives on precision and timing. Companies were forced to scramble for alternative sources, navigate rising costs, and delay production schedules, all while trying to keep investors and consumers confident in their long-term roadmaps. It directly reflected the integration of newly blossoming technology areas with the emergent semiconductor landscapes. Their fate depends on how the following nations will treat them concerning those trade policy changes. The green technologies that, in some cases, seemed protected against old world wars are also very much subject to the strategic maneuverings of nation-states. Just with one export restriction, the Dutch government reminded the world that technological dependence comes with serious strategic risk. Under the conditions created by the newly emerging recession, the industry heads started rethinking their whole supply chain strategies. Chip independence and alternative sources of semiconductor proliferation became the new focal points. So governments have started looking to localize manufacturing and invest in domestic R&D, as well as diversify supplier relationships. There's a simple message here. The electric vehicle revolution must surely be multi-sourced, for failure, however advanced, as demonstrated by the repeated magnifying glass effects created by the shock that has presently put such vehicles on suspension.